You want to see some characters you're never gonna see again? Bam! This show doesn't do nameless background characters very often, so I find it interesting to just take a look when they do show up. I wouldn't be surprised if some of them were designed based on real people working on the show. Pearl and Amethyst are sitting here knocked out while Garnet is ready for some action. Like, what are we fighting? Let's fucking go!
Pay attention, Steven. This is going to be your first serious mission. You need to be ready.
Gotta love this being set up as serious, and Steven is just fucking upside down. Unfortunately, this is another episode just like Together Breakfast, where the whole premise is that Steven is obnoxious and gets in the way. The good thing is, I believe this is one of the last times where that's the main plot of an episode. Steven can still be obnoxious later, but not to this degree. And I should say, it's not as severe as it was in Together Breakfast. That was something in and of itself. This warp stream is like way bigger than any other time we see it in the show, and it's only for this gag of Steven falling into the strawberries. Steven's ukulele makes its first appearance. It totally fits him, seeing that his dad was a musician. It would make sense that he'd get his son something that he could easily hold when he was younger. I got one too, check it out.
I'm fine! I'm good! I'm just gooey!
Steven does a lot of gross stuff throughout this show, but this is up there for me, weirdly enough. I bet along with all that strawberry goop there's plenty of dirt and piss and shit from various animals. And he just licks it up with no hesitation. You can see a diamond emblem on the shield here. Can Garnet do that? I thought only Pearl had some sort of pocket dimension to store stuff. Ah, the famous mural. This is the first clear look at the history in this show. Rose Quartz and her army against some other gem. I don't know who it is for sure, but it could be the gem that they recover at the end of this episode.
Steven's the best! Steven's the best! Why, thank you, Temple.
That's another line they used in every goddamn promo for this show when it was first premiering. I'm actually having trouble finding videos of those promos on YouTube, so if anyone has recordings or knows the links, could you put them in the comments? I want to start a collection.
Looks like we're gonna have to split up.
This has never made sense to me in media. When characters come to a path that diverges like this, why do they always decide to split up? Maybe it's all the years of Dungeons & Dragons talking, but splitting the party in a dungeon always results in something bad, whether it be getting lost, running into a monster, falling into a trap, or whatever. And in this instance, the only thing splitting up would do is save time, but newsflash, they're trapped, they're not going anywhere. They have all the time in the world to check these rooms. Well, until Steven starves to death. Also, this room has that Era 2 diamond symbol on the floor.
Steven goes with me.
Really? Awesome!
This is a Garnet episode? Does she get any character development? No? Okay.
Whoa, we're on a magic treasure hunt for some magic treasure junk.
That's a song, right? That's the first song since Cheeseburger Backpack. God, I want something like this in my living room. If I had a guest over, all the floor tiles would do this, and I tell them to only stand on the glowing ones just to freak them out. That would be some advanced level trolling. For once, this isn't Steven's fuck up. The room rumbling and turning knocked him off balance. He didn't do anything wrong here, it's just bad dungeon design. Garnet jumps at this block so hard that her feet get fucking embedded in the stone.
Let's keep going.
All right, but be careful. You might trigger a trap with that gun show.
It's a nice line, the writers definitely tried, but it suffers from that season 1 Estelle weak line delivery. I got a lot of comments last time I mentioned it, trying to hand wave that as part of her character, showing her stoicism, but that's all it is, hand waving. The line read is weak, it's that simple. I love Estelle, and I love her voice. She just doesn't quite have it together this early.
It looks like there's lots of triangles hidden somewhere in this room.
He's right, gotta give him credit for that. What happened to your gauntlets? I like this room, it's excessive. Every dungeon needs that one comically excessive room.
I think I need to get off this ride now!
The fuck? There's no safety equipment on this ride? Steven must be right about all the serious accidents he mentioned last episode, goddamn. Oh, Pearl is the only one knocked out. Amethyst is just sleeping like she is in that earlier shot.
Steven, you're banned from all the rides forever!
A totally reasonable reaction at first glance, but like I said earlier, that ride had no safety equipment. Arguably not Steven's fault. It was bound to happen eventually. Fuck you, Mr. Smiley. All my homies hate Mr. Smiley. Axe continuity? There's no axes in this shot, but there are axes in this later shot.
There
are 16 doors, and we entered from the northeast and went through 3 consecutive rooms in a straight line, but arrived back here out the southernmost door, which can only mean...
It means this temple makes no sense in Euclidean space, at least how it's described later. I mean, that's pretty obvious, but the math is simple enough to tell you that 16 doors wouldn't work. 8 doors would, however.
What if this is just like the teacups? All the rooms are spinning us around, so we end up here!
I said this in Crystal Sins all those years ago, but calling those mechanisms the same thing is like saying the Earth rotating and revolving around the sun is the same thing. One's spinning around the axis, which is this temple, and the other is orbiting around a center, which is the teacups. Not the same kind of rotation. I like how Garnet's reaction to this information is to just break through the floor. It's kind of lazy writing though, right? They couldn't find a way for the solution to the puzzle make sense, or just didn't have enough time, so they just break the dungeon entirely.
It's just like the teacup ride at Funland!
Steven already figured that out.
Yeah, but he didn't have a holographic visual representation of the whole thing, as wrong as it may be. These carvings are pretty sick. It's like some black skeleton thing. Again, I think the writers just ran out of time, so they just had Garnet throw him. I don't know what other solution they could have come up with. Hold on, I just want to play this scene because the sound design is fucking sick.
Oh, that's the end of another day!
Damn, 2 songs in 1 episode? I think this episode rivals Mr. Greg. I remember really liking this episode, but after rewatching it a few times, I have to wonder what it was that I liked. Probably the fact that it was a dungeon crawl. A mediocre one, but I'm a sucker for a good dungeon adventure. Everything about Steven we saw in this one, we saw in Cheeseburger Backpack and Together Breakfast. This was also a Garnet episode, but all she really did was look badass and make 1 joke. It's something, at least. I'll take whatever I can get with Garnet. There was the mural, that's just cool background stuff though, not really part of the story. I wish I had more to say about this episode. It feels like this video is pretty short, but we're getting to the point in season 1 where there's not a lot of new stuff being introduced. Actually, I think this is the first episode where that's the case. Not all of these videos are going to be bangers, unfortunately. That's it for now. If you want to see these episodes a week in advance, you can subscribe to my Patreon for just a couple bucks. The link is in the description. There are no official members to read at this time, but I want to give a shout out to Dominic McCarthy, who is the only person to find the link to my Patreon in the Cat Fingers analysis, even before I officially announced it. Anyway, next episode is another cat one, Tiger Millionaire.